Hi, my name is Sue Skasky with Vermont Volunteer Services for Animals Humane Society, and welcome to our show For the Animals. Today, I've got a really exciting guest. Linda Gage is here from Kenab, Utah, and you're with Best Friends Animal Society. Welcome,
Right.
Linda.
Thanks, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here.
How did you first learn about Best Friends, and what made you decide that you wanted to work there?
I'll make it a short story.
Okay.
Hurricane Katrina, everybody remembers that, hit in 2005.
Yeah.
I was at home watching TV like everybody else, watching what everybody was going through, and started seeing video footage of animals stuck on roofs, animals running loose in the streets. And then there was one scene of a little boy on a truck in a bus.
Yeah.
Leaving, and he couldn't take his dog with him, and the dog was running after the bus. And it hit me right then and there that I just said, this cannot be happening. So my poor husband, I got in my car and I drove to New Orleans. I just packed it up and I went to New Orleans.
What part were you in?
Well, we went to, there was a facility called Lamar Dixon.
Yeah.
All the rescue groups kind of gathered there. It was a huge facility. So every day we based out of there, and we went into the city and rescued animals from various locations. We had lists to work off of, people calling in saying, can you please go to my house and save my whatever. Best Friends, on the other hand, wasn't at that facility. They actually had a shelter in Tylertown, Mississippi. So it was further away from the disaster zone. And eventually it got to the point where we were going in and rescuing animals during the day. They were sending down tractor trailers in the evening. We were loading up the animals. They were taking them back up to the shelter. So that's how I heard of them and got to know them. I spent many, many months down in New Orleans, all the way through March of 2006, going back and forth. And after that, Best Friends was it was this great organization that wanted to save more animals. So they contracted with me from time to time for different rescue events. I did that, and then we moved out there in 2007, and I started working for them full-time in Kenab, Utah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what is Best Friends? Tell me about it.
Best Friends is a nonprofit organization, and the main focus and mission is to hopefully achieve a day when there are no more homeless pets. And you may ask, what does that mean? No more homeless pets means finding a home for every animal. Right now, there are about 4 to 5 million animals, pets, euthanized in shelters every year. Those animals can be in homes. So our goal is to put together programs, community programs, initiatives, tools, so that we can connect with individuals, rescue groups within towns, shelters in towns, basically the grassroots community and network. Sort of act as a base and a center that they can all have a place where they can go to connect with one another, to help one another. But then we give them tools and resources, programs, and they can implement those in the community and in turn save more lives.
So, okay, let's talk about the no-kill movement, because just before the show we were talking about what do you do if you're a shelter, you've got space for 25, number 26 comes through the door.
It's hard, and Best Friends didn't go without their challenges too when they first got into the no-kill movement and you know, making that their mission. To lower those euthanasia numbers. No-kill means that no animal is euthanized except in cases of terminal illness,
right.
Pain and suffering, or if it's deemed medically necessary. So, you know, you ask if other shelters can sort of follow that, you know, same philosophy. The short answer is yes, but not without challenges. I mean, the mindset of everybody used to be
That's right.
the way to handle unadoptable or abandoned or unwanted pets was through euthanasia. And that's not the answer. The answer, there are lots of other answers to that. So it's working with all those individuals in communities. Best Friends can't do all this work. I mean, we can't do it ourselves. We need the community. So we need to support those people, give them whatever we can, and be there so that they can in turn go into their community and save more lives.
We are so, you know, in Vermont, we are, I think, so far ahead of the curve. My Humane Society started the first statewide spay-neuter assistance program back 30 years ago.
Wow.
And at that point, we started with one veterinarian who's been on the show a couple times. And then we went to another one and another one, another one. We had close to 40 offices throughout the state that had joined. And then we
that's
decided,
fantastic.
you know what? We're not going to be around able to do fundraising forever. Let's make this sustainable and viable. So we got legislation drafted. We copied New Hampshire's,
Okay.
got it passed, and now we are the administrator of the state spay-neuter program called VSNP, where people that are income challenged can go and have their animals spayed and neutered at close to 80 offices now for just $25. And it's funded by $3 to every dog license that goes into a designated fund, and then we use that money. But we've got, you know, Vermont Can that does low-cost spay-neuter. We've got Dr. Sarah White that goes around the state and does different clinics. We've got the Cat Spay-Neuter Clinic, who's been in Colchester forever, Dr. Larson doing, you know, phenomenal. And then we have veterinarians throughout the state that are just, they're the backbone of the program. They're so, you know, incredible. So I'm curious because I'm sending out a survey this week to find out where we stand with our euthanasia rates. So it'll be interesting.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to see the results of that. Well, congratulations to you guys. I mean, that's huge. I mean, because that's right. Exactly. Nobody can do that alone, and it's providing. I guess I'll call it a platform or a network, so that all those different communities can work together. Yeah. So that's terrific. Yeah. Nice job.
The sanctuary itself. What can you tell me about that, since it sounds like you spend a lot of time there?
The sanctuary itself is, Best Friends sits on about 3,800 acres in the southwestern part of Utah. So it's all the Red Rock Canyons.
3,800 acres?
3,800 acres. It's big.
Wow.
Doesn't mean we can take everybody's animals, but it's big.
Yeah.
Because the way the canyon's set up is there's a lower canyon and an upper canyon, so all the different animal care areas are situated in different locations so that they're far enough from one another. Okay. We have, on any given day, probably 1,700 animals on average. And that's cats and dogs, horses, pigs, bunnies, parrots, and we also have a wildlife rehab. They can then come to Best Friends and work with our vets and our trainers and our caregivers. They rehabilitate them and they find a home. So the ultimate goal, is to find them a home, not to...
So you're that revolving door.
Right.
You know, it sounds like heaven on earth.
Right.
Tell me about the animals that live there. It's their home. How is it different than a shelter?
That's a good question. Because a lot of people mix the two up. I mean, even a lot of visitors and volunteers who come out say, oh yeah, you guys have such a great shelter. But it's not. I mean, a sanctuary, by definition, is a place where an animal can live the rest of its life. So there are those that do that because they are either too sick, too old, or been too traumatized in their life. So they do have the ability to stay there the rest of their life and be safe and loved and cared for.
Okay, that's what, you know what, that was the question I had. And then after seeing a little bit of the video, if my dog or my cat went somewhere without being with me, I know how traumatic it would be. Right. But it looked like the animals there were really loved enough. It wasn't just they needed a one-on-one, because it looked like they had so much interaction with other people.
They do. And that's one thing that you brought up, an interesting point. You know, if you couldn't keep your animal, you know, that would be traumatic for them.
Yeah.
And the sanctuary is a great place. It's a fabulous place. But every animal should be in a home.
Right.
I mean, so the goal is, let's get them into homes. For those who can't, for whatever all those reasons are, then they do have a safe place to live, and they can live there. But it's a group environment, so not all animals work well in groups.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of single cat.
Oh, I know. I know.
I have one who just loves to live in my husband's office, you know. But same
like
thing
that
with dogs.
too.
Yeah, same thing with dogs, you know.
Right.
But that's not the norm.
Okay.
The norm is that, so being different from a shelter, in most shelters, all the animals are in individual spaces, so whether it's kennels or cages. Here they live in groups, so like a dog run, we have the octagons, and it's 8 runs. All the animals have access to indoor and outdoor in all the areas, and their outside runs are huge. So you could have anywhere from 2 to 4 dogs in one run.
Wow.
And, you know, they can come in and they can go out, and the cats are the same. They have, you know, lots of rooms, but it's 15 to 20 cats in a room, an indoor-outdoor room.
It just sounds
big.
incredible. I so want to go out there. How many visitors do you get yearly?
Visitors, we usually get about 29,000. Of that 29,000, about 8,000 stay to volunteer. Volunteers on average stay about 2.5 days. Somebody could just come for the day, an afternoon, but there are people who stay 1 week and then add on another week, and we've had people stay a month. So, and the whole place couldn't run without our volunteers. They are just extraordinary.
So do you have a facility right there on the property where people stay?
No, we don't. Well, I shouldn't say no, we don't. We have a few cottages and cabins that people can reserve, but there's not many of those. But the town of Kenab is only about 8 miles away, and there's a lot of places to stay there. So most people stay there and then come up to the sanctuary for the day.
So if people wanted to find out more, they'd go to www.bestfriends.org.
Bestfriends.org, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I understand that you're building a new cat facility?
We are.
Okay, tell me about that.
I'm a cat person, so this is near and dear to my heart. Well, we were just talking about how all the animals live in groups, but there are those cases where animals can't live with other animals because it's not healthy for them or the other animals.
Right.
And we have a number of cats like that. So we are building a single cat building. It's going to have about 20 rooms that are for single cats. So it's their own little private apartment.
Those are lucky cats.
I know. About half of those rooms will have the ability to open up, connect doors so that if there's a bonded pair, but they don't get along with others, so we'll be able to do some multiples in there if necessary. The other great thing about the building is that we're going to have a grooming area for cats, a separate grooming area, an adoption area, socialization room for them, so when visitors and volunteers can come in, they can go into this big socialization room and just hang with cats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, not too long ago, you opened up a puppy
care center.
Yeah? Tell me about that.
Turns out, and this was new to me too, most dogs are returned within the first year of their life. So they get adopted out as puppies, whether it's from a rescue group or shelter, wherever. They get adopted out, and sometime within that first year, they're returned. Because they're getting sent into homes with no skills. They don't have socialization skills, they've just been taken away from their mother, dropped in this huge world that they've never seen before with all this input, and they don't know what to do with it. So they do all those things we hear that puppies do.
Choose my shoe.
Exactly. So in order to combat that, we started what we called puppy class. And when you go to Best Friends, you have to go to puppy class because it is the most hilarious, fun thing you can ever do. We started puppy class, and it was to provide experiences for all the puppies. So we would have all our volunteers once a day for an hour, be with our puppies, and we'd put them through their paces. We'd have crates there, so they'd learn to go in and out of crates without fear. Of course, using all treats and positive reinforcement.
Right.
There'd be kids in there, so kids would be picking them up, holding them by their arms, pulling on their ears, turning them upside down. People would be screaming. We'd be opening umbrellas, really fast to make noise, running chaos. It's fun.
It sounds like
it's a blast. They learn not to be afraid of those things. So then, when we started going back out to adoption events with our puppies, we were walking into, the stores with the puppies on a leash, and they were walking on a leash, and they were just going over to a little spot, and everybody was in awe. So it actually turned our return rate from 75% to 1.
No kidding. I love it.
So everybody realized that this is huge. It's been a great success. It has a real life room. There's a couch, there's a vacuum cleaner, there's a TV, there's radio, there's sinks. So it's just immersing the puppy in a world that it's going to experience when it goes into somebody's home. It makes
so
total
much sense.
Doesn't it? I know.
It really does. So the volunteers that come, they must walk out with armloads of animals, or do they adopt?
A lot of volunteers adopt.
Yeah.
Not really on the spot. Some people go home and they suddenly realize, I cannot live without so-and-so. But the biggest thing that happens, and it's really touching, is that somebody can walk into a room and not have any intention of adopting an animal. They're just there on vacation. They want to sit and socialize and pet the kitties. And then suddenly, one of the cats from, the rafters or from these high shelving units that we have suddenly comes down and just goes right over to that person and crawls onto their lap. And I have seen it happen.
Yeah.